Hi, this is Pat Duckworth, the author of Hot Women Rock, How to Discover Your Midlife Entrepreneurial Mojo. I'm delighted that my guest today is in sunny California because it is a bit cold and damp here. So my guest is a certified high performance coach and a relationship success coach. She's coached both men and women in the areas of personal development, leadership, and mastering habits for success. She specializes in helping powerful, successful women have happier, healthier, more intimate connections in their relationships without giving up their power. She knows firsthand how a driven personality type can leave you feeling lonely, disappointed, frustrated, and resentful. You can achieve higher levels of success without sacrificing your health, well-being, and relationships, and that is so important. She uses her personal experiences along with her leadership, transformational, and high performance training to teach you the pillars of high performance, as well as showing you how to communicate in a way that fosters intimacy, influence, and connection in your personal and professional life. So it is a very warm welcome to Eva Medilek. Hi, Eva, how are you today?
Hi, Pat. Thanks for having me. I'm doing just great. It's like you said, it's beautiful and sunny here. A nice place to be in quarantine for sure.
Well, if you could share a bit of sunshine with us, that would be brilliant.
Absolutely, I'll do my best.
So I can't remember how long we've known each other, but it's been a few years, and but this is the first time I'll hear your story. So I can't wait to dig right in and say, how did your career story start? What was the first thing you did when you left education?
I spent over 30 years, 38 to be exact, as a dental hygienist.
Oh, wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, so I started my career right out of high school. I went to university to be a dental hygienist, and that has been a part of my life more than half of my life as a dental hygienist. And I started that career on the East Coast in the United States. I was working in New York and New Jersey for many years and quickly got burnt out. Not quickly, but after 20 some odd years, the weather,
Mm.
February was just like, I cannot commute into New York City anymore. And so I moved my family to California with my then boyfriend, now husband. And we came to sunny California to start anew there. So that was my first midlife crisis because I moved out here at 43, 44 years old. I don't quite remember, and got licensed to practice in California. So that was midlife crisis number one of about three right now that I've been through. So that was around 2004, 2005. And then, as we all know, in 2008 to about 12, the economy just really went down pretty bad. And I had this job in San Francisco where one week she guaranteed me job security. And in the next week, which was actually my 50th birthday, she told me I was being downsized and my salary was being cut. And so all of a sudden, I had a new husband. We were only married a year at that point, a couple of kids in college, a mortgage. And I was really the main breadwinner of the family because my husband was an independent photographer. And I had planned this big birthday trip in Mexico. And all of a sudden, here I am at the age of 50 going out to interview and find a job because I was terrified. I'd never had that experience before. And that's when I realized how humiliating it was to be interviewing along with all of these young girls out of school who can be hired for a lower wage, that I needed to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's one of those kicks up the butt, isn't it, really?
Yes, yes. It's one of those happened for me, not to me, because my husband is from Europe. I know you've met him before, and he's from Germany, and all his family is still there. And we always had this dream of, getting our own place while we're there instead of couch surfing and guest bedroom surfing, and to spend summers. And I realized as I was looking for a supplemental income, that I wouldn't be able to do that.
Mhm.
You know, I would not be able to not only afford a place, but I would not be able to take the time off and to have the ability to spend months on end,
Right.
especially, you know, being an employee. You know, we're
Yeah.
talking about entrepreneurship. You don't have that freedom. And in the States, you know, if we get 2 weeks off, we're lucky. And we want to spend full summers. I mean, it takes 2 weeks to really get over jet lag, especially from California. So I realized that being an employee until my retirement age was not going to work for me. And so I immediately started looking for what I could do to have that freedom and still have a passive income lifestyle.
So you built up all that experience as a dental hygienist, and there you are in your early 50s and doing a complete 180-degree handbrake turn.
Exactly, exactly. And what I landed on, well, at first I tried multi-level marketing, and I just felt like I'm a horrible salesperson. I'm one of those salespeople like my mom was. I just buy my own product and I'm fine. But you know what I stumbled on was real estate and real estate investing. And so I invested a lot of money to learn how to become a successful real estate investor. So one of the things in my entrepreneurial journey, as I was downsized, was to create an investment in myself so that I could have the skill to be successful about what I was doing as an entrepreneur. And
So
so
what attracted you about real estate?
is that I did not have to go back to school
Oh,
to learn a new skill. And I could create a business using other people's money and having investors. And I can create a passive income lifestyle that business could create rental income that didn't involve me actually working. And I could work from anywhere in the world as long as I had you know, properties and property managers. And so just learning ways to creatively finance, because you automatically think, okay, especially in California, the prices are so high here, like how could I get money for down payments? But just learning the short-term strategies and using private and what they call hard money loans to get in and out and create capital so that I could buy and hold to create passive income lifestyle. And so I had earned income, passive income, portfolio income. As a dental hygienist, I didn't know what any of that meant. So I didn't want to go in and do it wrong and screw up, but I hired mentors and coaches to really help me learn that business. And within 4 years,
wow.
we had our apartment in Berlin. We were featured on House Hunters International. We had holdings. We had flipped a number of houses to where we had rental income, you know, rental properties where we were living off of the passive income and had that freedom lifestyle. Although it still took me a while to retire from dental hygiene because it was a part of my identity, I created a both and, you know. And so I love that I just had the passion to figure that out.
So where did you go from there?
And so that, you know, because of the level of success that I was experiencing with the company that I invested in for my education, they asked me, well, first of all, they inducted me and my husband into their International Hall of Fame. And so this was actually Robert Kiyosaki's company. And so we were inducted into the Hall of Fame, and then they asked me to be a mentor in the company. And that's when I got into coaching. But here's what I found as I was coaching people who wanted to be real estate investors, especially midlife women. I have such an affinity and a passion for midlife women. I was finding that they were so stuck. We are so stuck in a comfort zone and the fear of making that change. So even women who invested in the education were not taking the action steps needed to be successful. And that's when I decided to start coaching midlife women, especially into really those transition and having the courage and the confidence to keep moving forward and knowing they could do it. If I could do it at the age of 50 and really be on my way to financial freedom, so to speak, within 5 to 8 years, why can't anybody else? And I would hear women in their 40s saying, I'm too old. I'm like, are you kidding me? I have 10 years on you. Stop it. If I can do it, and all I knew was teeth, anybody could do this. And so, you know, that's midlife crisis. What are we up to? Number 3 now was I found myself more wanting to coach. And I'll tell you what happened. And this is an interesting part of the story. As I was building my business, I was still working as a hygienist. I had found a job and I was working 2 part-time jobs. I was studying the curriculum in the morning, at lunchtime, at home. I was traveling to classes. I was marketing. I had hired a little girl from college, first my daughter, but then I fired her because she, you know, like she'd come up to work in my office in her pajamas. I'm like, really, honey? I'm going to get a real employee. And I was really very highly driven to succeed at this business. So much so that I was really burnt out, stressed out, and overwhelmed. Like I had a mission. I was like, I need to be successful in 5 years. And what I found during that time was, you know, my husband and I were starting to drift apart. Like our communication wasn't as smooth. We would get irritated and snippy with each other easier. I was clearly the driven part in the business. He wasn't on board to begin with because of the significant amount of investment that was needed to take on this undertaking. And so I always felt that we were really disconnected, even though he didn't stop me. I didn't feel fully supported. So I was just superwoman. I was going to do it. I was going to prove I could do it. I was going to work. I was going to do the real estate business. I was going to do the shopping, the cooking, the laundry, like all of it. But the person I was becoming was not the person that was, you know, loving and connected. And I was just always driven to succeed. And I remember one day you know, my husband went out to walk the dog and I was looking for something on his phone because we had renovated one of our apartments and I wanted to post it on Facebook. And so he hadn't sent me the photo. So I picked up this phone to look for the photos. And what I found in that moment, when I looked at the phone, my heart just dropped to the ground. And I discovered that he was falling in love with another woman. And in that moment, I realized that everything that I was working for, our home in Berlin, our lifestyle of freedom, of traveling in Europe all summers, of having this passive lifestyle and income, could be lost. I could just lose it all. Because those love emojis transcend any language barrier and the photos. And I was terrified. And I share that with you because my focus was so on success that I took my eye off of my relationship. And in that moment, I knew that I was just as responsible for that as he was. It just really hit me in the face.
How did you bring it up with him? I mean, that's a really difficult conversation to start, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And yeah, when he came home from walking the dog, we sat on the couch with the dog between us, and I confronted him about it. He did not deny it. But I can see the pain and confusion in his eyes. And you know what? I didn't know where we go from there. You know, it was very difficult. And I had reached out to one of my personal coaches in leadership. I said, you know, as you read my bio, I was, you know, in leadership transformation and personal development. And, you know, we reached out for support immediately. Like, what do we do? But before we did that, we we came to the conclusion that we wanted to work on it. Like we didn't want to give up, but we wanted to see, we wanted to get support. We couldn't do it alone, but we wanted to get help in figuring out what we should be doing. And it's funny, when we talked, we both realized, and this is part of the coaching that I do in relationships, that our habits, patterns, belief, and behaviors that we developed from our early life experiences were showing up in a way that sabotaged our relationship. Mine was being driven and emotionally shut down with that connection. His was more of avoiding and evading, talking about things and coming to a conclusion and running away. And that contributed to his self-sabotaging behavior and contributed to how I was showing up to make him want to run away.
Yeah.
And we really did the work necessary to destroy the relationship that we had. And when I say destroy that, so that we can build a new relationship. And it was during the work that we did in that process where my husband looked at me and he says, "You need to coach men too, not just midlife women." Because he said, the way you helped me, because I was a hot mess, and the fact that you didn't give up on me and us, and we really did the work together, not only together on our relationship, but on ourselves personally, so that we could show up on, as our best selves for each other, is what saved our marriage, our business, and our life. And I can safely say, I mean, you've met him, he's my ride or die. And we actually came through that beautifully, which came to my fourth transformation of really being not only a relationship success coach, but really learning the habits of high performance so that we don't have to sacrifice our health, our well-being, or our relationships on that road to success.
I just want to pause there and say it's such an important point that you raise about doing the work, because sometimes people reach an obstacle, whether it is a business obstacle, a personal relationship obstacle, and think, oh, well, perhaps I'm not meant to be doing this, or I'm not meant to be in this relationship, and give up on it before really exploring what's going on and putting some effort in. Putting that work in, that means that something valuable doesn't get lost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We had a choice in that moment because we were clearly in breakdown. We can have that breakdown lead to a breakup or a breakthrough. And I didn't want to have all of this success and be alone.
Yeah.
But I also did not know what would happen. I did not know if he would choose to go back to Europe without me and be with this other woman. The important piece for us in that time was to stay very present and focused on what we were creating and not be in the past and be fear-based and not be in the future and be anxiety-based. So it was really important to just live each day, day by day by day, and do the work.
Yeah, and that led you to this new business opportunity. So this is Pat Duckworth, and my guest today is Eva Medilek. And wow, that's quite the story, Eva. That's a few breakdowns along the way.
Yes.
I want to go back to something you said that I think is really, well, loads of it was really important, but one of the bits that sticks to me is that issue of identity. Because along the way, you've changed your business identity, and you said it wasn't easy to let go of the being a hygienist, because you'd invested a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of learning and experience into that. And I really want to kind of mention that, because sometimes when you're making that decision, you were saying that some of these women didn't really want to, were fearful of making a change. And I think there can be fear of letting go of an old identity that you've put a lot of investment into in order to take on a new one. And particularly at midlife, where you're letting go of young, reproductive sex goddess you and moving into older, don't know what it's going to mean you, you know, that there's so much going on at midlife and a lot of it involves identity.
That's so
Any
true.
thoughts on that?
You know, that was a hard one for me because, you know, letting go of sexy reproductive me, that's when I started in dental hygiene. I applied when I was 16 to
Yeah.
go to university for that. And I've been a hygienist since the age of 19 or 20. I didn't retire till 2 years ago when I was 58. But what I did do was in that profession, I was 4 days a week, then 3 days a week, then two
Mm.
days a week, then one day it was. So I literally weaned myself
Yeah.
out of the profession, and to the point where my patients were saying, why are you still holding on? When are you going to let go? And I'm like, I don't know. It's been me. It's been my whole life. It's in my high school yearbook. I'm going to be a hygienist. I was so tied to that. And plus I was so good at it. And I had relationships with people. I'm a relationship communication guru. Like that's my superpower. And it's just like, I'm really leaving that life behind.
Mm.
And so it was really tough to cut the cord. So I had to trick myself. I had to not renew my license and not continue with my education to renew my license so that there could be no looking back. And
Yeah, it's that
that fully into this.
burning the bridges.
I
So,
did.
so for
Burn the
women,
boats.
for women watching, you know, it's all right to feel a bit of grief for the identity you're leaving behind because you've put energy and time into what you were doing. But letting that go means that you can move on to something that's so much better. Don't let that grief about the old identity stop you from moving forward into the new one because look how exciting it is. Look how exciting Eva's life has been.
Yeah. You know what helped, and this may help people who are
Yeah.
listening to it. I visualized my perfect day for years. The time I wanted to wake up, what I wanted to do first thing in the morning that didn't involve an alarm clock and rushing out the door to catch a train to go to work.
Yeah.
How I wanted to spend my days. And I really visualized the important piece of that for me. And that kept me going. And I'm like, I'll never get to that as long as I have a job and I'm not in entrepreneurship. And
That visualization piece is so important because I did that when I read the book, you know, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People.
Stephen Covey, yes.
And I kind of read that and I started to think about what it was. I didn't know what I wanted to be doing, but that perfect day piece. And I was seeing myself looking out the window, seeing trees and grass and nature rather than concrete buildings. And I imagined kind of having contact with people, having a laugh, but not being in a big office. I didn't know what it was going to be. And like you know, some years later, I turned around and thought, this is what I imagined. So, you know, getting that general picture rather than the specifics just primes your brain to move towards the thing that you want to do. And that's really important. So, if there was one thing that you could say was your purpose in life now, your kind of guiding star, what would it be?
You know, I really want to make a difference for people to learn how to have that connection
Mm,
and communication because most conflict happens when there's miscommunication and we don't have the proper influence. And so, you know, with everything that's happening in the world today, it's so much more important to learn how to communicate so that, you know, we feel heard, we feel understood, we feel seen, we see
mm,
valued, we feel honored, because that's really the foundation and the soil that you want to plant any seed in so that to grow. And so what has happened to me along my journey is I just took action, and each action led to a new purpose, a new realization that is continuing to evolve and grow, which keeps that excitement in my life. And so as I'm helping people live high performance lifestyles and really have successful relationships in the process, I've also been inspired to really help people learn how to listen and how to communicate during this time of racial unrest and
Mm.
tension. And so that's been my latest passion. I started a Facebook group called The Intimacy of Race, where non-Black allies of Black lives can go and feel safe
Mm.
to get resources to increase their education so that they're making decisions based on knowledge and not on emotion and feeling. But it's a safe space. There's no hate, there's no judgment, there's no making other people wrong. And that's how I found that I could deal with the grief and the trauma ancestral that I was feeling from the current events in the world. And it's been really therapeutic for me to deal with my emotion around that, but also I see where I can help people deal with their emotions around that as well.
Yeah, and the webinar event you ran a few weeks ago was so powerful. The women speakers that you had on there, um, it's just so eye-opening because as a white woman, I take so much for granted, and
Yeah.
so listening to those experiences and what was being said was so helpful in understanding that perspective, the Black woman perspective. I found it really helpful. So thank you so much for doing that.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, and that recording actually is available. I can share that with you later. For people to have in their libraries, or if they join the Facebook group, they can see a link for it on there as well. But it really is something that I found that people had so much great feedback, like yourself, and
Mm.
that wanted to use that in their conversations with other people who may not be open to listening. It really gives you that door.
Yeah, yeah, very, very good. So, what does success look like for you now?
That's a really good question. For me, success is freedom. It really is creating, like, I look at my life as something that I designed. I was really intentional in designing it and did the work to where, you know, I just feel so happy to have the freedom to choose how I want to live my life. And so I am supporting people in communication, connection, and high performance habits in their lives so that they can have health, well being, and vitality.
So, if you had some tips for new entrepreneurs, what would you say to them?
I would say to take action, even if it's
Mm.
imperfect action, because the more action that you take and step into, the more you can actually find out what you're meant to do. Either it works or it doesn't work. And I would say there's no such thing as making a right decision. You've got to make a decision and then make that decision right. And that's what I would leave you with. Just make a decision and do something.
Very good. So, I want to take you on a bit of a journey now.
Okay.
So, if it's all right, I just want you to close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to imagine your perfect day now, just taking that day out into the future to 5 years from now. And you and I both know how quickly 5 years can go. So get that feeling in your body of what it's like when you're having that fantastic day where you feel it and what you see around you and what you hear, even the thoughts that you're thinking. And it's just the most success, and whatever success means to you at that point. And then open your eyes. And what's going on at 5 years from now?
I am speaking on big stages in 5 years from now, but really, really speaking powerfully. And I'm a sought after speaker and a world class author, selling author. That's what I see in 5 years. And honestly, I always was resisting that author piece. Like, who would listen to me? What do I have to say? But, I'm finding tremendous value in using my voice. And I realize I do have something to say. And so
Yeah,
I see that happening more for me in 5 years.
Well, having heard you speak, I think that is a very good way to be going. So, people watching, if they want to find out more about you, how do they do that?
Well, they can do so on my website, which is evamedilek.com. And on that website, if they wanted to go to that, there is a free gift called 6 Powerful Ways of Being to Foster Effective Communication and Connection in Your Relationships. And I
Wonderful. So, what have we learnt today? We've learnt that it's important to take action, and it's about making a decision. It might not be the right decision, but you can make it the right decision rather than just sitting there not being sure and having to be perfect. Make a decision, take action, move ahead with it. And just that last piece, using your voice, whatever story you've got to tell, it's your story and it's your unique story, and using that to help other people is very powerful. So thank you so much for being with me today, Eva.
thank you, Pat. It was my pleasure.
And to everybody watching, keep looking out for more of these amazing interviews with wonderful, inspiring entrepreneurs, and I'll see you next time.